Well, tropical weather continues to be the dominant headline both in the southwestern U.S., but also in the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic, and heat impacting a large part of the country. So traditional severe weather in the plains in the central U.S. is going to be really at a minimum these next few days. We've got just some marginal risk, northeastern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, also over parts of the mountains in the west, remnants of Tropical Storm Hillary, and similar thing tomorrow. Not much going on here to speak of, maybe a little UP of Michigan marginal risk of action, mainly just some large hail. The bigger story is the tropical weather, and in places we don't normally expect it. Yeah, the last time a tropical storm hit California in 1939, but tons of rain here. We're talking several inches of moisture in areas that don't get it at this time of year. California gets moisture, of course, in the winter, but not in the summer typically, unless you have a very rare tropical setup. So here's the remnants of Hillary. Now, this spin that you see up the coast is an upper level low. So this was part of what the collision that created these conditions was. You had a tropical storm coming over Baja California, but also an upper level low channeling the system's track and moisture into California, Nevada, and western Arizona. But the Atlantic, a more typical spot, also really picking up activity. We talked about this last week. Well, now we have a few named storms. We've got Emily, Gert, and Franklin, and possibly one that could be developing in the Gulf of Mexico. That's the one we're going to watch most immediately, because that is expected or forecast to make landfall as a tropical storm along the Gulf Coast in Texas here sometime probably early Tuesday and then into Tuesday. So wind, not so much the concern, but it will be the flooding rains that we could see in the southern part of Texas. And they've been, of course, walloped by a lot of heat as well. And it's worth remembering that while tornadoes are cool to look at and interesting to follow, heat kills way more people than any other natural disaster when we line them up. And then second to that is flooding, usually. So heat fatalities, definitely a big thing in the U.S., especially in urban areas where a lot of people don't have as much access to cooling and they just don't cool off at night. We got a huge area of heat advisories and excessive heat warnings through the central U.S. all the way up into Minnesota, and unusual for this late in the season this far north too. So highs are going to be in the triple digits up into South Dakota all the way down to Texas, but when you factor in some incredible humidity, dew points in the 70s to maybe even near 80 degrees, you get well into the triple digits. In fact, 100 and teens probably for parts of the central U.S. And that heat will expand further north into Minnesota, Wisconsin, into the middle of the week, then subside a little bit slowly but surely Thursday, Friday, but still the central plains are going to be very hot around here. And we're seeing higher dew points because we've actually been seeing some rain lately the last couple of weeks in the central U.S. So that Gulf moisture not just quite fizzling out. So heat is going to be the big story along with tropical weather.